Hello everybody, greetings from the student engagement team. My name's Laura and I'm going to take you through a recorded session of succeeding at interviews. Our learning outcomes for today include to learn techniques that will develop your confidence when attending interviews, to understand the different types of interview formats, and lastly, to understand differences between strengths-based and competency-based interview questions. So what comes to mind when you think about having to do a video interview? You may be feeling excited, happy, nervous, worried, anxious, and these are all really natural emotions to have when facing an interview. Hopefully we'll cover any of these concerns and worries and any questions you might have today in this presentation, but the key thing to think about is preparation, and there are aspects that you are in control of that we'll focus on today. So if you've got this far, you've been invited to the video interview, then congratulations. This means that you've fulfilled the criteria on either your CV, your cover letter, and anything else that you've had to do so far. And this really does mean that they are genuinely interested in you and that you have fulfilled the company expectations. It's definitely worth having a look at the person specification again when you're doing a video interview, and just to recap on the role that you've applied for as well. But this is a time really to feel confident that you will be successful. There are two different types of video interviews that you may come across. The first being live video interviews, and this is where you will be in front of a panel and answer a series of questions based on the person's specification. The employer may use something like Teams, they may use Zoom, or they may use another type of software. The key thing is if you're not aware or you haven't heard of this software, do practice it so you feel really confident on the day. Just be aware that even through a live interview, this may also act as an internal candidate tracking and screening tool, so that's just something to be aware of, and do read your interview instructions carefully. The second type of interview is a pre-recorded or one-way video interview where you will answer a series of questions but will just look at a screen and won't have anybody there. And this is something that you can do on your computer or tablet. You'll usually be given a link to a page where you can record your answers to pre-selected or pre-recorded interview questions. Now, usually with these sort of questions, you will be given an amount of time to read the question and then think about what your answer might be. And then 2 minutes usually to actually answer the question properly. And you may get 1 or 2 tries before submitting as well. So, do practice that. We've got some technology at Lancaster where you can actually practice this type of interview. So hopefully that might be quite useful for you. And I've got some links to those on the next couple of slides, but those are shortlist me. And if you've done the Lancaster Award, then you probably will have used that software already. And also we've got Interview 360 as well, which is relatively new. And that's got three different ways that you can actually utilize that technology and do a video interview. And as I say, if you do want some more information on that, do get in touch with us and we can support you with that. So how do you prepare for an interview? One of the key things that you can do is some reflection and think about how you align, how your skills and experience align with the job specification. You can also book a mock interview with us by getting in touch at careers@lancaster.ac.uk. If you send us your job specification, then we can create questions based on this and then provide feedback. Knowing the company, doing your research is also really important. Understanding the company's values, the ethos, their future plans, what their strategies are is also useful. And you may do this by firstly looking at the company websites and getting information there, but also looking at other sources of information as well, like social media, including Twitter and LinkedIn are very useful, have lots of information. And you can also see what other companies are related to the organisation. You may also read journals, you may read papers, magazines, and we also have a industry insights on our careers portal, which has lots of information about different sectors that might also be useful for you. Really having that understanding of the role and being able to talk about that. The job description is going to be useful, as is the job specification, and understanding the skills that are required to do that role effectively. Know what to expect, read all the documents you have been given, prepare questions that you'd like to ask, and really this is going to come from the research that you do. So the more research that you do, the more in-depth knowledge you have about that company, the better and more relevant questions you can ask that demonstrate to the employer that you have a really good understanding about that specific employer and company. Do a technical run through, as this will avoid any technical hitches. So another aspect of video preparation is looking the part. So what do you wear for an interview? And I would say always prepare smart interview clothing that will really demonstrate your professionalism and also really demonstrates that you are serious about the role. So avoid anything that's informal. Despite it being maybe an online interview, dress the part, show you're serious. And also think about your surroundings as well. So make sure that there isn't anybody in the background, there isn't lots of pictures on the wall. Choose a blank background where possible. Related to the background is thinking about the right location for you. Where is it quiet? Where are you going to be uninterrupted? What is the lighting like? Also think about setting up the shot. Make sure that when you set up either your laptop, your phone or a tablet, that you are looking at the lens, as this will demonstrate eye contact with the person or person that is looking at the video interview. Avoid kind of looking down at the lens, make sure it is eye level, and that will help to develop rapport with the person who is watching the video interview. If you are using a mobile device, then make sure you have it resting on something so it doesn't wobble. And as I say, look at your outline in the camera view, get close enough so you mainly see your head and shoulders in the shot. What you could do is use our video interview software, Shortlist Me and Interview 360, and practice by looking at the lens and then recording it and then seeing if you are giving eye contact. One of the positive aspects of doing a pre-recorded video interview is that you can choose the time that you do it. So one thing that might be useful is thinking about, when do you feel most energized? When have you got the most energy? When are you at your best? If you are not a morning person and it takes you a little bit of time to get going, then maybe selecting a time in the afternoon might be better. Or if you're not so good in the afternoon and you tend to lose a bit of energy, then maybe the morning. Think about what energizes you. What can you do before the interview to really get yourself going and put yourself into that positive state of mind? And everybody will be different. Some people might listen to music, other people might do a run or a walk. You may ring a friend that is really positive and puts you into a really good mood. Whatever it is, do something positive that will then help you with the interview. Another thing to think about is calming your nerves. We all get nervous before an interview. It's totally natural. So breathe. It's really underrated, but it really helps to bring your cortisol and adrenaline levels down and to just get yourself on an even keel. As you go through the interview, that will probably happen naturally anyway, as you get used to answering the questions and the format. But do think about how you could calm your nerves. Eye contact, really important, as we've mentioned. So look at the camera as you would look at an interviewer. Smile, that's also really important to show that you're approachable, you're friendly, you're amicable. Although the content is important, so is the way you come across, like your body language. Keep still, don't be too rigid though, try not to fidget or be too animated. Keep your eye on that lens. Use gestures by all means to get across your points. This will also demonstrate your enthusiasm, but just don't be too zealous with that. Lean forward, it also helps you to look more interested. Top tips for a video interview then. Smile and look at the camera. Make sure that you've got that eye level. Treat it like a real interview. Do it in a professional environment and dress formally. And preparation is really key. So review the job specification, research the company and create your own questions to ask. Think about strategies to manage your nerves and prepare an answer regarding why you want the role and why you wish to work at this particular company. Review your skills and strengths and how these align with the role. Have your CV and job employer details to hand. And one thing that you can do is search student forums for question ideas, and Glassdoor is a good website for that. Think about the structure of your answer. We're going to be looking at STAR and strength-based interview questions in a moment. Give details in your answers. So if you've been given 2 minutes to answer a question, make sure that you use that time, which will allow you to go into depth and detail with your answer and give examples. Allow at least 30 minutes, so avoid making any arrangements after your interview so that you're not thinking about rushing off. And avoid touching your face, keep your mouth covered. And don't eat or drink on camera. If you do want to drink water, then have it in a glass and drink in between questions. Resources that may support you with your interview preparations include information from prospects' websites, which has information on interview tips and lots of advice there as well. Interviews from Lancaster University careers site, so if you follow that link, that should take you to it. And PwC also have a really useful tool for interviews as well. Lancaster University has 2 different types of interview software that students can access. I mentioned these earlier, Interview 360 and Shortlist Me. Interview 360 can be accessed through our careers website. If you scroll down, you should be able to access those there. Alternatively, it is also on the careers portal. Interview 360 consists of 3 different types of interview formats you can use. The first one is where you can upload your CV and the software creates interview questions based on the content. So this could be useful if you have really focused on the specification and those questions will be relevant for that particular role. The second type is where you can actually input your own questions and answer questions. And the third is where there is already a set of questions for you to answer. You will receive feedback based on your responses and you can watch your interview back. Shortlist Me, you may be familiar with if you've completed the Lancaster Award. This again provides feedback and it's very accessible. It's on the careers website and is very easy to use. If you do have any questions based on using this software, please contact us at careers@lancaster.ac.uk. I'm going to move on now to different types of interview style questions, competency-based and strength-based interview questions. So what's a competency-based interview question then? Why is that useful for the employer? So a competency-based question really tests the experience that you've had previously that will support you in order to do the role. So it demonstrates how competent you are at a particular skill, how effective you are at using that skill, and as I said, what experience that you've gained at using that skill. These are core skills that are tested through competency-based interview questions. I won't read them all out, but some examples: resilience, communication, problem solving and analytical skills, teamwork, interpersonal skills, cultural sensitivity, customer focus and leadership. So these are some examples of competency-based questions, and these relate to teamwork. So I'll just read them through. So the first one, how do you build effective working relationships? How have you dealt with a dispute between colleagues? Can you explain how you have worked in a team to complete a recent project? How have you worked as a leader alongside being a team member? Describe a situation where you had to work effectively as a member of the team. What were the team's aims? How was the team selected? And what was your role? So a variety of questions there related to teamwork. One of the things I would say is when you are answering a teamwork question, one of the things that we see often in careers is students using leadership roles to answer a teamwork question, which I think is tempting to do if you've been a leader of a project, but you've also been in a team, which is what question 4 is trying to differentiate there. So do be careful about that and just focus on your collaboration with other colleagues rather than leading as such. The other thing is to avoid using we within these types of questions, because it does create ambiguity in terms of how much responsibility that you took for, doing a certain task or, being within the project. The last question is quite wordy and has got quite a few questions within it. And I think that's one of the challenges when you have got a question. If this is a video interview, it should be written there anyway, and you should be able to see it. If you've been asked this by somebody, whether this be face-to-face or, within a video interview, then, if you can't remember the question, what you could do is just say, can you just repeat that question? That's absolutely fine. You might need more time to think about a question if there's a variety of questions within that one question. You could also use captions as well if you wanted to during the video interview, if you can get it, depending on what the format of the video interview is. Now, to answer competency-based questions, we use the STAR technique. And as I said earlier, if anybody has done the Lancaster Award or is going to do the Lancaster Award, then we do use STAR within some of our tasks questions. So just going through, so this is really to help structure the competency-based question. So the first part of it is situation. So this sets the scene, in terms of the context. So that constitutes 10 to 15%. The task is what your specific role was, what situation were you facing, and that again is 10 to 15% of the answer. The action part is really the crucial part of the answer. It's the biggest part, it's 50 to 60%. And this really gets across your approach to that specific task or activity that you're doing. So what concrete actions did you take to resolve the situation? And always present yourself as the driver of a successful outcome as well. The result is the outcome. If you can quantify the result, brilliant. So if you can say, this increased sales by 35%, or, in the end, I had, 1,000 followers on Instagram, that is brilliant. But sometimes we don't have that number to give to the employer. So just think of what was the achievement? What did you learn from that particular process? Or, something that is quantifiable in some kind of way, but also something credible. And the result is also worth 15 to 20% there as well. So I thought it would be useful just to give you an example of an answer using the STAR technique. So the question that you may get asked is, when have you worked in a successful team, or something to that effect. So this is an example of a situation which some of you may have actually done. So as a university ambassador, I work within a team to promote the university and to represent it in a positive light. So you're setting the scene and you're providing the context. Now, this is just a written example which I have to fit onto one slide. So you may elaborate a little bit more. So that probably will be longer. The task is to say what you've done. So my responsibility within a team of ambassadors is to lead tours for prospective student and parents and to help out at events. So you're saying there how you've worked within a team, what your role was within that team. And that was within the team of ambassadors and to lead tours. The action part is, it's really important within this part is to use action verbs to get across your skills and your actions. So this example is, I did this by demonstrating services, departments, accommodation and explaining information regarding these as well as opportunities students could get involved with. I actively listened to queries and answered questions accurately with detail. I created rapport effectively using a friendly approach and projected my voice to engage larger groups. I supported events by negotiating with other ambassadors, responsibilities, and I flexibly took on extra shifts when needed. I initiated conversations with students to contribute to creating a friendly atmosphere. So they've gone on to say, what they've done. And I'll say in bold, these are the action verbs here that the person has used. So they've gone into detail a bit about their role and what they've done, how they've collaborated with others, but also what they've done within their specific role. And that's really important. So even if you're in a competency-based answer, you might be talking about how you've collaborated in terms of talking about ideas that you have, but also it's about what are you doing to support that team, and that might be administrative roles that you do, administrative tasks. It might be something else. It might be doing some lab research within the team. So even if you're doing individual tasks, those could be still contributing towards the team overall objective. And then lastly, feedback has always been positive, and I always create excellent working relationships with my colleagues. I was also recommended for extra responsibility by my employer. So again, there isn't a quantifiable outcome as such there, but it's certainly a credible response and demonstrates positivity around doing that role. So I hope that's been useful in terms of that example for you there. Moving on to strength-based recruitment, there are more and more companies now that are using this type of interview style. It is becoming more popular, and some companies only use strength-based interview questions as they see it more relevant for recruiting candidates for that particular role or company. FDM are a company that do use those questions, and they also do webinars as well, so which is very useful. So this essentially focuses on what individuals could do and what they love to do. It really helps for the candidate to get across their strengths, what energizes them, how they engage, and it's a real emphasis on fit for the role. So contrasting to the competency-based interview where that was about your previous experience, this is really about your strengths. It could be what you find challenging as well, and there will be different types of questions that I'm going to show you that are in the style of strength-based interviews questions. And these could be seen at online assessments, interviews, and also assessment centres. How's best to prepare for strength-based recruitment? So really understanding your own strengths is really important. So doing a bit of reflection before the interview about yourself, what you find easy, what are your approaches when you work within a team? What do you do? How do you communicate well? What are your preferences? So really understanding about yourself is really key really to answering these effectively. So things that you might think about is what your friends and family know about you, what you enjoy doing, what are you like when you're at your best, what is a great day, how does that look for you, what activities do you not particularly enjoy and why. There isn't a right or wrong way of doing this. It is more difficult to prepare for the competency-based questions where you could actually get some examples. Here, it's more about understanding about yourself. But what you can do is practice talking about your strengths and what you do enjoy doing. One of the things I would say for strength-based questions is there isn't a right or wrong way, but I would definitely answer the questions based on the job specification. So, for example, if you are asked something about teamwork and individual working, and you might be asked, what do you prefer, individual working or working in a team? Now, the job role might require both. If you say just individual working, then you're cutting off your ability or your knowledge and your ability to talk about working in a team. So it might be more acceptable or maybe more relevant to say, well, actually, I like both and this is why. So just be careful when you're answering, just be aware of that job specification. And I think that's really useful for these questions to really understand that so that you can answer the questions accordingly. There are different types of strength-based interview examples, and I'm just going to demonstrate 3 to you here. So there are warm-up questions that might be something like, tell me about an activity that you really enjoy. So that's just kind of getting across your likes, and also is an opportunity to really get across your enthusiasm as well. Forced response questions could be something like this. In your opinion, which is more important? Taking extra time to produce high quality work, or completing work more quickly but to a lower standard. So the questions get a little bit more complicated. The other one is difficult to prepare for scenarios. So I guess with the other two, it's a little bit easier. With this one, imagine you have created a set of recommendations for your client. You discover that they cannot work due to a number of factors you were not aware of. What would be your immediate reaction and how would you move forward? So again, it's getting into a little bit more detail there and a little bit more thought. And again, it's okay to say to the employer, I just need to think about this. Can I have a little bit more time? Absolutely fine. So it's worth just, as I say, doing some reflection on these type of interview styles. With the competency-based questions, it is easy to get maybe 4 or 5 examples and to have them in your mind. The one thing that I didn't say about the competency-based questions is that you could use those examples for different types of questions. So if you prepare an answer for, say, teamwork, you might be able to use that same example for, say, problem solving instead and just adapt it slightly. As I say, with these types of questions, maybe a little bit more difficult to prepare for, but you can still reflect and think about yourself. One thing to say about strength-based interview questions, if you do get something like, what challenges you? What do you find difficult? Just be aware to say what you are doing to overcome that particular challenge or difficulty so they can see that you're being proactive and you're doing something about that to develop yourself. These are some more examples of strength-based interview questions which you can read through and practice in your own time if you wish to. What to expect when answering these types of questions. There will be a wide range of questions to answer. More questions will be delivered more quickly. There will be a chance to express how you feel in relation to a task or activity, which is useful for the employer as they will get to know your personality better, what your likes are, and also how you will fit into that particular role or team. It is a good idea to give short examples to back yourself up, so do so when you're answering these questions. And you can give examples from all aspects of your life, which include academic, employment, volunteering, sports, or social activities that you've done. So in summary, I'm a big believer on focusing on what you can control. So that would be looking at the job specification, really understanding that, and thinking about the questions that may be delivered that relate to that specification. Book a mock interview with us, send us the specification and we can create interviews based on that. Thinking about the research as well, another important aspect. And also you can create questions based on that knowledge. Develop answers using the STAR technique. If you know that the company, and they may give you this information about the types of questions they use, do prepare those questions because that's something that you're in control of. For video interviews, finding a space, the time of day, as well might be something to think about, when you're energized. Secondly, use your voice, your body language to create a really positive impression, whether that be face to face or on video. That will really help to show aspects of your personality, and it really makes it easier for the people watching to really think, yes, this person's going to fit in really well with the company. They're friendly, they're approachable, they obviously look like they're going to be really nice to work with, because that's obviously part of it as well. And as I say, book a mock interview with us. Don't hesitate to do that. And I'll just give you that address again. That's careers@lancaster.ac.uk, and somebody will be in touch. If you do have any questions about this session and want to ask somebody, then I'll just repeat that again. If you contact careers@lancaster.ac.uk, and somebody will be in touch to discuss that with you. I just want to say thank you for listening to this recording. It's been a pleasure today, and I hope you have a fantastic year.